I've been working on getting all of my miners repaired. Today I'm going to be replacing a power supply. Well, how did I know the power supply was bad? Well, the miner didn't work. I look at the miner log, it's showing me that power supply issues, and made like this spark sound, and I was like, well, that ain't good, let's turn that thing off. My name is Vosk. We're over here at the VoskCoin mining farm. I'm in the immersion shed. There's 8 freaking Bitcoin miners in there, and I'm talking to you at a normal volume. Immersion's still kind of blowing my mind. I've been around mining farms with immersion, but like never really did it myself at scale. This is cool. But anyway, today I'm going to be replacing a mining rig, ASIC mining rig power supply, specifically a Bitmain Antminer, and this is going to be a Bitcoin miner. They're all pretty much the same, and many of them all actually just use the same power supply. There's multiple revisions. I'm going to explain what that is and basically make sure you get the right one. And you'll realize by the end of this, if you've ever hung up a picture, you can change the power supply. Believe in yourself. You got this. Today we're replacing a power supply, but if you need to learn how to replace a control board, good news, we got a video for that. I'll link it out down below. And if you're totally new to this, we have a how to set up an ASIC miner video walking through all the basics of getting started with setting up your mining rig. So first things first, grab your miner. It's probably not working. Okay, throw it on the bench. Grab your drill, or your pleb, a screwdriver. Then remove the screws. You're pretty much removing all of the screws as shown. You need to get the hood off because you're going to have to unattach these cables that go into the power supply. This is a keynote. This is so important, okay? When you power this down, let it sit there for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, disconnected from power. Because when you remove this hood and you expose the bus bar, okay, this carries a charge. This can hurt you. If this is scary, send it to a repair center. I'll link one down in the video description below. You just have to be mindful of it. It's kind of like how you need to turn off a circuit if you're doing an electrical repair. You don't want that line to be hot, because this bus bar right here is what connects to the power supply and runs the power. So when this is on, when this is mining, or this device is on, this is hot. Not just temperature, like this is carrying electricity, which you will conduct if your genius self touches it when it's on. So don't do that. That's your warning. And you'll be removing this PCIe connection, not from the control board, because that's probably fine, but from the power supply. And once all those screws are removed, it just slides out. The most common failure in an Antminer ASIC miner, a Bitcoin mining rig, in this case this is an Antminer S19 Pro, is a power supply failure. The second most common failure is a control board failure. Two very easy and cheap to replace components when compared to the average cost of an ASIC Bitcoin mining rig. Huge thanks to Altair, because Averil and his company, Altair, they've just been fantastic to work with. Some of the best prices in the business for miner replacement parts, super quick shipping, and just cool guy. So here's a BeagleBone control board, for example. We see altairtech.io. We opened an affiliate account with them, but more importantly, we've got a coupon code. Punch in the code VoskCoin to save some coin on your order. If you order one power supply, it may show up like this. But let me show you something pretty cool, because I got a bunch of power supplies in. This way, I've got backups on deck. It's pretty cool though, check them out. I mean, this is 6 power supplies. Here's some interesting information. They're all revision F. Now, there's power supplies of every type. Look at this. So this is the bad power supply. How do I know that? Well, we wrote bad on it. That was a good start. In particular, This is a APW 121215, which is basically the model. This is version B. And this is some really cool information. You know, do with this what you will. You know, disclaimer, try it if you want. You shouldn't technically be overclocking and pulling more juice from these, but you can, because basically with each revision, they end up having like another 250 watts, if I recall, of additional power, if not more. Which means that when we get to revision F, we're well above the 3,000 something watt rating of these earlier power supplies. Here is the key information when it comes to these power supplies. You should just buy a revision F, even if you have a B or a C or a D or an A or whatever, because with the latest firmware, your miner can run on revision F. If you do not update the firmware, it won't work. But that's okay. You can just put revision F on, get the miner back online, and then update the firmware, and it'll work. I'm going to show you exactly this today, because this is the power supply that's on the bad miner that we're fixing, and we're going to put a revision F on it. And well, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. So let's get this guy out of the packaging, and then he's in plastic. Sure, tip this thing over. I'm gonna need to put this down and use two hands, but you can see that this is version F here, right? APW 121215. You need 240 voltage like you always do and expected, but it's revision F. God, that's just got that Chinese factory smell. You know, this kind of smells like fish. And that's gross. Just a heads up, when you're removing the hood, you can probably just remove this middle screw. And when you remove that middle screw, you'll gain access fully to this mechanism. And you pretty much push this back and you can pop it off. You can remove this screw and this screw if you're having troubles, but you probably don't need to. This is the standard hood you'll see on pretty much every current generation of a Bitmain Antminer, including all of the S19 Bitcoin ASIC mining rigs. So, a key note, right, when you're sliding this on. So really easy way to remember this, right? Power is going to be on the same side as Ethernet. So that means this is going to be the side that goes in there. We're going to need to get this connection to here. This is where the bus bar is going to connect and make that connection I warned you about. And when we look at this, it's got two connection points and it's just going to slide onto the rail. The top one basically goes under and the bottom one goes on top. So the connections sit on the inside like this. Easy enough, and you just slide it around through there. Only word of caution is just make sure this doesn't fall down there, get pinched or anything like that. I mean, this is pretty much the only thing that can get in your way. This PCIe connection should be disconnected, and then this other ribbon connection should be disconnected. But once you get it on there, you can just go ahead and, while we're right here talking about it, plug those in. I shouldn't slap this. And now we have the power supply partially reinstalled. At this point, we just need to put these screws back in. I went ahead and threaded these to begin by hand, right? And then very lightly use the drill, just very carefully, right? I'm making sure that I'm sending the screw in, I'm not cross-threading, right? I mean, this is the basics of DIY, but it's a good reminder because all of this stuff you're working on is delicate for what it is. It is expensive. You don't want to make a mistake using a power tool to save you time, just to waste your time when you gotta fix things and redo them. So now we need to put the hood back on the power supply, get this thing all tidied up and dressed up. Key note here is gonna be these two guys. Why are you bent? Well, whatever, it's bent. So these two hooks will go in right here, and that's what you're going to focus on. You just basically find those hook points, pull, and voila, that went pretty smooth. Goes right on, looks like a factory fit and finish. So over here, make sure nothing's pinched. This is a stiff cable, so it's good. This ribbon's good. And then we make sure that this fan power control wire over here is sitting in this slot. Then at that point, we have 1, 2, 3 screws to go ahead and completely secure the new power supply. And as always, keep track of your screws and what they're doing, where they go. So these screws with this little crush washer thing is going to be what we're going to use in all 3 of these locations. And a good reminder is we're matching, right? Like this one, that one down here. These are all the same screw types. And then I'll gently send that one home. I mean, finger tight, right? I make sure, it's good to go. That's it. This isn't like something you need to torque down 100 foot-pounds like your lug nuts, which probably don't even go that deep. It's probably like 89 foot-pounds. So now I'm going to put these other 2 in, and we'll get this thing finally dressed up, see if this PSU is good. It's time to put the hood on. So this is pretty simple, right? We're just going to kind of put this in here, and I'm just kind of loosely getting this in the general position I want, and then going to, and before I push it down, you see we're pretty much exactly where we want to be. It's got these 2 ridges on the bottom. I'm not pinching any wires again. You always have to look out for that. It shouldn't really happen, but it's something you need to look out for. And that's why it has this cutout on the side. And then I've got these 2 ridges in the front, which will fall into these little cavities. And then we've got the lines, the long lines down the side, which fall into that cavity. So, all right, try not to hit your miner. But when I did hit it, you can see that it goes into that little slot, and see how I can disengage it. It's exactly what you want. You need this little guy. So this little tiny screw goes here, and the bit I have on my drill or screw gun is a little bit too big to fit this tiny one. I'm gonna go old school. That'll work. So, just like that, we have swapped a power supply. And I know this video is a little long. I'm taking my time. I'm trying to show a lot of step-by-step here. But I mean, it's easy, and the actual process is basically, remove screws, slide out, slide back in, replace screws. Very easy, very simple. So if you're replacing a power supply, I'm pretty sure you know how to use one of these, everything before you get into this. So better practice is going to be installing your power cable. 2 C13s going in here to the attached power supply that we just attached, and also an Ethernet cable, which is going into my switch over there. So we got internet attached with Ethernet, click. Got power attached down there, click. And now all we need to do is plug this power into actual power. Okay, so it's turning on, the fans are firing, it didn't blow up yet. That's cool. Now there's a very key step. We need to go in and update the firmware. And this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about the hard drive mining shed. So we're exiting the immersion mining shed. We've got the air-cooled mining facility over there, and now it's like I'm an Amish used shed salesman out here. It feels like I got the whole friggin' inventory. But here's the deal. We walk in here because this is the hard drive mining shed, which is more like a server room, and well, it's climate controlled, and that's incredible. So I'm gonna talk a little quieter in here. They're not good acoustics in this yet. So I pull this up, I get the IP address to log into this miner. I didn't replace the control board, just the power supply. So I've used this miner before, so it should pop up here, it should pop up in your router if you're using DHCP. Not necessarily at the same IP address, probably not, But if you have a smart router, it should save your device name if you do things like that. So let's see if I've got the right miner. Root, default login there. And I see a miner, it's up for 2 minutes. That would make sense. And I'll go down here. And this is exactly what we expected to see. The miner's online, the miner is working. Okay, get power type version failed. So this is a version B. Remember, this firmware on this miner was never updated. It's from 2021. Oh, those were better times. At least as far as the market goes. So ignore this new shiny miner. Oh God, I hate that new power cable they're using. So we're on Bitmain's website, and I'll link out directly to the firmware. We go to firmware download. Okay. Now we're on BTC SHA-256. I have an S19J Pro. So here's the firmware we need, which came out at the end of 2022. This supports low power mode, and more importantly, this should enable us to use a newer or revised power supply. So I'm going to click on system, and then I'm going over to firmware. I will come here, grab that file, keep the same settings, click update, it will upload, it will apply, and this is how you update the firmware from the dashboard. There's the old school method of using an SD card and basically flashing it on the device, but if you can access the dashboard, just use the dashboard. It's a lot easier. And so we'll give this a second, just be patient. This is the last thing you want to corrupt. So I let it do its thing, powered off, powered back on. I didn't do anything, and it just showed up back here in the dashboard, which is where I want to be. Key thing to note, we look down here, we see firmware version 2022. That's good. We go to our settings. I see it saved my settings, which do need to be updated. All right, so while we're in here, I went ahead and updated my mining pool information. I'm gonna be moving my miners over to Brains right now, as I have a lot of my miners on the Brains firmware with the new immersion deployment, and I've genuinely been enjoying the Brains firmware. One very cool thing about the new S19J Pro, or newer, it's really not all that new, is going to be that it allows low power mode. That kind of customization, you need an aftermarket firmware like Brains to be able to do that. Low power is basically an efficiency setting. So if you have a high electricity rate, you can select that and it will burn less watts and mine more efficiently, but your overall performance will be lower. Since I just replaced this power supply, I don't want to go straight into low power or anything like that. I want this to mine normally as intended. So I've updated the mining pool information, I've updated the firmware, everything looks good to go. It should have restarted, but I'm just going to go ahead and do a full reboot. Click the restart option down there on the bottom right. Now, it recognizes the power supply, or it's supposed to. We're going to look at the miner log. We're on the correct mining pool information. We rebooted. I mean, this is everything you can do. Let's see if it works. All right, that definitely took a few minutes, but so now I'm here in the dashboard. Everything says normal, cool, good. We see a hash rate that we want. We come down here, we see the correct number of chips. This is a miner with 3 hash boards, 126 chips on all of them. We see no errors, we see that running. We go and we look in the miner log. We come down here, it's setting frequency, it's doing its thing, it's mining. Earlier you can see that it was testing the power supply, and just doing all of the advanced firmware technical stuff. That would be a really fun deep dive for another video, but the bottom line is this is working, our repair is successful, this is everything we wanted. It's truly wild, it's crazy the noise difference an air-cooled miner has and the heat output, because in that tank, I've got 8 miners. Right here, I've got 1 on air cool. So we're gonna shut that down. I mean, it raised the temperature in here from like 70-ish degrees to 80-ish. I mean, I was feeling more like 90 real quick. But yeah, look at the noise difference on that. Made possible by the big radiator dry cooler outside, but either way, different means to an end, right? I don't even know if I used that right. But we'll just act like I did. So, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug that. All right, so now it's time to plug this into where it's actually gonna stay in mine, at least for now. All right, now that miner is deployed on the farm, you can see it's right here, back to happily mining. That's what I'm talking about. But ironically, I discovered a new problem with my farm. So there you go. That's the breakdown. This stuff's real easy to do. Have some confidence you can do this. If you can change a light bulb, you can change a power supply, because it's just kind of simple. But following the key steps will make sure you do it right. And above all, be careful, be cautious, consult a professional, have them do it, disclaimer, right, so you don't shock yourself. As always, I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please subscribe to the VoskCoin YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up, share it with a friend who is being lazy and not fixing their miners, because I showed you in this video a great place to get gear. And by the way, it's in the US, it's not an overseas operation. You'll get it quick in the United States, and they'll probably ship it to you internationally quickly as well. And so you know where to get the gear for a good deal, best deal, probably quick. You know how to replace it. So now you look, let me count your excuses. 0 excuses to get it done. And our CMO, our Chief Mining Officer, Tails Vosk, our resident Dogecoin, said that you better get after it. Thanks for watching.